my name and put down.
Come on. Where are you? How come you're not?
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
Football season is here and
Come on.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac, Jack, and James debate show. Let's see. There we are. Where we debate some of the, the modern day topics here. So we'll get this started right now, and I'll start it off with: is Joe Flacco a good option for the New York Giants?
Okay. I'll say that Joe Flacco is at this juncture of his career where he's at right now. I saw that you mentioned, is he considered a bridge quarterback? I don't think right now, I think Joe Flacco is best suited as a backup quarterback. A bridge quarterback, I probably wouldn't want to start my team with him to go at this juncture of his career. He's 40 years old. He can still throw the ball in spurts, in pockets here and there. But as I've seen when he played when he played for Cleveland and when he did play for Indianapolis the last couple of seasons, he fizzled out. It was almost like Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew as a bridge quarterback. I would take Joe Flacco, of course, in his prime over he's nowhere near a bridge quarterback at that time, but now because of age, and just time, Father Time passes on everybody. Father Time is undefeated. I would just consider Joe Flacco as a backup. He reminds me of what you have as an antique car. Let's just say I got this nice 70 Coupe de Ville Cadillac, and I restored it. I got it in the garage. I'm not going to take it out and drive it 9 to 5 every day to work, but every now and then I want to take it out and drive and show it off. Joe Flacco still has the talent to do 1 or 2 games here and there, but not enough to be a bridge quarterback. When you say bridge can mean anything, maybe 1 season or maybe 5 to 10 games. consistent to be able to guide the next quarterback coming in, a rookie preferably. And so for New York to be able, I see they're trying to kick the tread on the tires and then see if Joe can still do it, until they get a quarterback. Clearly, they're going to draft a quarterback. With them doing this, they have nothing in free agency. They're going to have to get a quarterback in number 3, and I think Shedeur Sanders is probably going to be the option there. I just don't see Joe Flacco. He may even be a backup to the rookie, because nowadays you play rookies. Everybody plays rookies just to get them out there. That's just the way the game is now. So Joe, is he a bridge? No, I think he's a backup.
Okay. What are your thoughts, Jack?
My thoughts on Mac, if I was a viewer and I just happened to come upon this show, I would change the channel immediately, because this is boring. If this is the best we can do to start a show, Joe Flacco, could he be a bridge quarterback, a starter, whatever? Who gives a darn with Joe Flacco at this point? I mean, let's be honest about it. This is a guy who's kicked around. He had a little bit of a resurgence with Cleveland, so I got to give you a due there. They won some games. It created an illusion that Joe Flacco can be an answer, but obviously he's not going to be. Bridge quarterback, can he win a few games here and there? Yeah, I guess he could. I mean, I got a number of guys like Joe Flacco, with the Giants. He was called in for an interview. I mean, with the Giants, who do they have signed right now? Tommy Cutlets? Anyone is in play now for the Giants. Anyone can be their bridge quarterback, it means. Because anyone they're going to call in for an interview is going to be better than Tommy Cutlets. So there's your answer right there. And it's could he be a viable backup? That's the question. I suppose he could, if you have a quarterback that's durable, that's healthy, where you probably won't have to call Joe Flacco to come in during the season. He could certainly run an offense. He's experienced. But no, I mean, the Jets traded. I mean, he kicked around from the Jets to the Eagles to the Browns to wherever another team was. He with the Colts, I forgot. There too. He's kicked around a few teams. There's a reason for that. There's a reason. No, don't dignify this with Joe Flacco. Especially to start a show. I mean, come on.
Well, Jack, I mean, he's experienced. He'd be good for the locker room, right? Knows how to read defenses. So he does have value.
Does have value. In what way are you telling me? Okay, you're talking about the Giants now? Or any other team?
Yes.
I mean, what exact value does he have beyond 20, 30 other guys you could get to play the position, backup, whatever? Yeah, he's better than a Joshua Dobbs who went to, the New England Patriots as a backup for Drake May. I guess Joe Milton will be the primary backup there, but Joshua Dobbs is on the Patriot roster, who could share some of his knowledge. Yeah, Flacco could share his knowledge with a young quarterback. If the Giants hypothetically are able to draft a Cam Ward, Joe Flacco could conceivably be an invaluable help sharing his knowledge. I'm not saying no, but to have him on the field beyond, a few games, it's a bad situation, if that were the case. Can he win a game here and there? Can he start for a team and over a few games maybe perform halfway decently? Perhaps. But that's the theory of putting a Band-Aid on a wound. Okay? I mean, you're stopping it, the infection or whatever temporarily, but that's not going to be an answer to anything at all.
No, I was primarily talking about the experience, the reading the defenses, the locker room.
What makes him such a great locker room guy? Well, who gives a darn? He's not going to come in a locker room and provide leadership as a backup quarterback.
I'm not saying that, Jack. I'm saying that he would be able to read defenses and show the younger quarterbacks how to do that. That's all.
Yeah, but you got coaches, quarterback coaches, so on. You don't expect Flacco to come in and necessarily be any type of a mentor. You know, maybe it works out. Some quarterbacks develop friendships. They work really well together. Reportedly, Andy Dalton and Bryce Young have a great relationship at Carolina. So Carolina brought Andy Dalton back because in part, I'm sure they think he's a good influence on Bryce Young, you know, to have there. But, you know, I don't know what Joe Flacco, he kicked around team to team. If he was this wonderful influence in the locker room, would he be kicking around to 5 teams? They would find a way for him to stay with one team and he'd want to stay there. I don't know whether Joe Flacco has any ambitions in the NFL right now outside of just holding a roster spot, getting a paycheck, living the NFL life. That's a better question that you can maybe tell me. Does he have any ambitions? Some of these veteran quarterbacks, they still have an ambition to start. They still think they can start somewhere, and they're looking for this path to start. Is Flacco looking for this path to start, or would he be also content in being a backup? I mean, I don't know.
I think he is okay, content to be in the backup, because why even go for an interview when you've been a backup 2 years in a row with 2 different teams? So, I mean, if you're content to starting, or if you're not content to just being a backup, you wouldn't even go for an interview. It's almost, then you're in denial. You need to go for a retirement at some point if you're not content to be. I think he's okay with being a backup because the evidence is there. It's just those 2 teams that he played with, Cleveland and in Indianapolis, he was the primary backup. He was the primary, and I think he's okay with coming in and filling in for the quarterback because he shows that he still has talent enough to be able to be a guy just good enough to win games here and there and to be a backup and to take a spell away from a quarterback who may be injured, who's a starter. And I think the same is going to be for New York. More than likely, if they draft a quarterback, that rookie's probably going to win out in camp and get the starting job, and Joe Flacco will be the backup again if he goes.
But James, whenever a team drafts a quarterback highly, the incumbent quarterback is on the clock, immediately on the clock. It's only a question of when he's going to get replaced. He can only hold off that incumbent so long. And even if it's a great quarterback, take the classic case. The San Diego Chargers had Drew Brees. As soon as they drafted Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees was on the clock. And if what would have been interesting if Drew Brees didn't get injured the last game of the season as a Charger? Had he stayed healthy to the end of the year, the Chargers would have had a very difficult decision, to move on from Drew Brees. But because he got injured, it made it easy. And they knew they had to play Phillip Rivers. Even last year, you look at the case of Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. If Sam Darnold would have taken the Vikings to a Super Bowl victory, if they would have continued on, Darnold would have been the quarterback going forward. They would have moved on from J.J. McCarthy. But anything short of that, whenever a team highly drafts a quarterback, the incumbent is on the clock. He doesn't have a future as being the long-term quarterback with the team. When the Packers moved up in the draft in the first round and drafted Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers knew he was on the clock. He responded with back-to-back MVP seasons. That's the only way you can hold off a highly drafted quarterback. You have to be phenomenal yourself, and then the team has no choice but to retain you because if they move on from you, they know they're going to look really bad.
But I think, yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly about everything you just said. In this case, though, Flacco is at 40, and he's never been a tremendous stat guy, where he's putting up 50 touchdowns to 11 interceptions or something like that, to where you're saying he's going to definitely hold off any rookie coming in or any other challenging free agent to challenge him for the starting position. So I think Flacco, again, just going into this question and going into this season, if he takes on a job for New York, again, it'll definitely be for a backup role.
You look
Because,
at
I mean, they're right.
upside. Picture this. Let's say your starter goes down game 6 of the season, and you have to go with the backup the rest of the season. You want a quarterback who at least has potential and upside to maybe do something. And I'll give you an example. Joe Flacco is probably a better short-term option than, let's say, Zach Wilson. Okay? But with Flacco, you have very little upside. At least with Zach Wilson, chances are he's going to fall on his face. But if he doesn't, he has more potential to do better. If he fulfills his potential. With Flacco, you basically know what you get.
Yes,
And
the floor is high. The floor is moderate, but the ceiling is low for sure because that ceiling is no longer high. So yeah, I agree with that in what you just said regarding Flacco. But we'll see. We'll see. I think it's better than what's out here. I mean, obviously, clearly, you don't know what the situation. That's another subject with regard to Aaron Rodgers. But I would try Flacco right now. And then, of course, they're just kind of showing their hand when you're looking to take on Flacco as an interview. New York's definitely going to take a quarterback this year.
Well, there's another quarterback available. Carson Wentz is available. He has more upside than Joe Flacco. Okay, because if Carson Wentz could recapture some of what he had, he just has more upside. And listen, Flacco did good with Cleveland a couple of years ago. I mean, I got to give him his due. He came in, he played some good games, and why did Cleveland move on from him? You'd think Cleveland would have made a hard push to keep him as a backup, and apparently they didn't do it.
That's because sorry, Matt. Sorry about that. That's because a 40-year-old Rodgers looks much better than a 40-year-old Flacco. I mean, that's just what it is.
Speaking of Rodgers, let's get to your topic. Let's see. Does Aaron Rodgers still have a leverage as a top free agent?
I don't think you would have put the question that way, James. Does he have leverage? That doesn't make sense, that question. Obviously, he has leverage that teams are bidding on him, waiting on him. I think a better question would be, what would be the best fit for Rodgers? What team to go to? That's just my thought on it, as opposed to the leverage part of it.
Sure. I would say go ahead. I'll shoot at the question though, and let's see what you think about it. I mean, in your way, the way you just brought it up. I mean, what team is the best fit?
No, because he has leverage, obviously, because they are waiting on him, and he's in the news all the time. So that's leverage right there. As long as teams want you more than one team, you got a certain amount of leverage because he's able to make a decision. There are 3 teams that he's been linked to potentially. You guys let me know if that's...
Well, let me hold on before you say that. I'm sorry. I get what you're saying now. And so what I would ask, is Aaron Rodgers worth the leverage that he commands then, if that's the case?
Okay, that's a good way of putting it. Is he still good enough to have that? Sure. But what do we... Okay, you take it, James, and then I'll come in.
I mean, just judging off of his last season in Green Bay, clearly he didn't have a real opportunity. But I mean, it was another wasted year of an aging quarterback when his Achilles ruptured. I believe that's the injury that he had 2 seasons ago. And when he came back here, this 2024 season, Aaron Rodgers shows that he can still play the game. But he has slowed greatly. I mean, he doesn't move around the pocket. Aaron Rodgers was definitely known for some of his mobility, to be able to maneuver around in the pocket, to not get sacked. He took a heck of a lot of sacks. Now, is that on the offensive line too? The ineptitude of the offensive line? I would say so, to some degree. But also taking on, with that said, taking on the outside stuff, the outside noise, the trip to Egypt, the cave, and the podcasting during the season, just like other players that do this. And putting yourself out there. I mean, throwing your teammates under the bus. Is he still talented enough to command any type of leverage to be able I mean, is he worth the leverage that he does have? I mean, is he talented enough to have that? Is the headache worth it enough? I would imagine if teams that didn't get Matthew Stafford allowed Aaron Rodgers to fill in the next step. He wasn't the number one guy. Have Aaron Rodgers been 4 seasons ago MVP status right now, and he was a free agent? Yes. Everybody's vying for his services, and he's number one, even above Matthew Stafford. But now, no. I mean, you clearly see he wasn't the number one guy to be chosen. And even, I mean, the Jets let him go, and they took on Justin Fields. That's saying a lot to me. That speaks a lot of volumes when you let a guy like that go, and you take on Justin Fields to be your next quarterback. Because I mean, prime Aaron Rodgers, there's no way Justin Fields is even in comparison to this guy. But he's weighing some. I don't think it's worth the headache. I would rather go in the draft and try to either trade up and get a quarterback or get another free agent and wait for next season. I just don't think Aaron Rodgers is worth the headache. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair assessment, but I could throw it back at you the other way. You said the Jets giving up on Aaron Rodgers for Justin Fields. That tells you a lot. I could say the Steelers are giving up on Justin Fields because they want Aaron Rodgers, and that'll tell you a lot, too. I could throw it in reverse the same way. You're right as far as maybe him not being the player he was, but he did show mobility last year. I watched the games. I don't know where people get, he's not mobile anymore. He showed a lot of mobility at times, getting flushed out of the pocket, running with the ball, and making some plays happen. Jets last year, his stats were deceiving Rodgers. They won that he didn't play as well as his stats said. But part of the problem, too, the Jets didn't finish games. At the end of the game, Rodgers would give him a lead on offense, and the last drive of the game on defense, the Jets wouldn't hold and would lose a game. And conversely, the Jets wouldn't execute the last drive of a game. They'd move the ball down the field, and then it would fizzle out. They just didn't finish, and the NFL is a league of where you have to finish. You have to finish games, and the Jets were absolutely awful in that regard. But is it worth the headache with Aaron Rodgers? I'm not, this drama may have been overplayed to an extent because his teammates haven't trashed him with the Jets since he left. Now's the time. You normally hear whispers, teammates saying things. No one is saying anything bad about him, that he was bad within the locker room. I mean, it just didn't work out basically on the field. Do you want any of the drama? Do you want this? You want that? I think the Jets are moving on from Aaron Rodgers, and wisely, because they want to change the culture. It's a new regime. They want to start over. They don't want, and Aaron Rodgers did command a lot of power, and they want to put a stop to that. They want to start the new regime on their terms, and that's what I would have done, if I came in. And that's what they're doing with Justin Fields. Justin Fields has a 2-year deal. He's guaranteed $30 million. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out with Justin Fields after 1 year, you can move on from him and you're not taking a big hit. It's worth the risk on Justin Fields because Justin Fields has a big question mark next to his name. He might be a good quarterback going forward. He might not. We don't know. The jury's still out on Justin Fields. We could all agree to that. Now, Rodgers has 3 places he can go. The advantages and disadvantages. He can go to Minnesota, and he'll have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison as wide receivers, and Aaron Jones as former Packer teammate to run the ball. That's mouth-watering if you're Aaron Rodgers. But the disadvantage is you have J.J. McCarthy there. So Aaron Rodgers is on the clock, like we said a moment ago. You don't want to go to Minnesota and just be a bridge quarterback where they could go to McCarthy during the season. But then again, if the Vikings think J.J. McCarthy's the answer, why don't they just start him now? I mean, why are they fooling
the
around?
with his there's a problem with his knee. He still has. They're not sure if he's going to play in 6 months. He still got. He. There was something regarding his injury that was a setback. So
Oh,
they need
okay.
to worry about-
I mean,
they need
I
to worry
thought he'd
about it.
be ready. I thought he'd be ready for the regular season physically.
Possibly, it's possible, but he may not.
Okay, but you don't want to.
But what you're saying about Aaron Rodgers is probably correct about him going to Minnesota. I mean, at this juncture, but the problem is he's still got to have that. He's got to look over his shoulder. He's still got to look over his shoulder just because of his status right now. There's no way he can't.
Well, no, you want
have
no,
it back.
wait. Not necessarily. If you're playing well, you don't want to look over your shoulder. And the Vikings have J.J. McCarthy, who they seem to be committed to because they let Sam Darnold walk very easily. Then you look at the Giants. If you're Aaron Rodgers, the advantage of staying with the Giants is you love New York. You're in the area. You're in your same stadium. It's like you weren't traded practically. You're just going to another locker room. But the thing is, if you're Aaron Rodgers, you sign with the Giants, and then they're able to draft Cam Ward, number 3, overall. If Cam Ward is available, which is a possibility, you're on the clock. And once the Giants draft a quarterback at number 3, it's either Cam Ward or no one at number 3. They're not going to draft Shedeur Sanders at number 3. I'd be shocked if the Giants did that, knowing their culture. But if they draft Cam Ward and you're Aaron Rodgers, like I said, you're on the clock. It's not a comfortable situation because the Giants are going to have to play Cam Ward by next season in all probability. So why would you want to go there? Pittsburgh seems to be a really good landing spot, except they don't really have the weapons. They have George Pickens. They traded Najee Harris. They got a great head coach in Mike Tomlin. They're ready to win now with their defense, but he doesn't have really the offensive weapons. But it's
you just excluded DK Metcalf. He's there now.
I'm sorry, DK Metcalf. I'm really sorry. Yeah, good catch there. But it's it's the place for him to be. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I was advising Aaron Rodgers, because you have no one looking over your shoulder at quarterback. I mean, maybe the Steelers draft a quarterback, Dart, a Ewers, or whoever else, who could be available in the first round. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback in the first round because they reached a little with Pickens, maybe the second round, but I don't. And Mike Tomlin has shown he's willing to move on from quarterbacks like Mitch Trubisky, not to obligate the Steeler franchise to someone who he drafts. So if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I go to Pittsburgh. I mean, that's the place. No one looking over his shoulder. Great defense there too.
But yeah,
that's the place.
But Jack, what is Pittsburgh going to do this year? I mean, they're not going to go to the Super Bowl.
You never know. They're not a favorite. No, listen, they're not a favorite, Mac. We know that, but they always have a winning record. They're always in the mix. If Aaron Rodgers would elevate the team, you never know. If their defense steps up and plays great, anything is in play. Okay.
I think Aaron Rodgers dropped the ball with what he did in New York. He didn't play. Look, I'm not comparing him to Tom Brady, but he is a quarterback that's supposed to be at that level. Where if you're at this age, you have the pickings of wherever you want to go. You make your decision. When Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, it wasn't all the way he wanted. Tom Brady was allowed to make some decisions on who he wanted to come, like Gronk coming back there. They changed the offensive line for him. They made it situated to where Tom Brady would have the best chance to succeed, and they did. They won a Super Bowl there. Aaron Rodgers is supposed to be in that same position right now. I think there's some places where he dropped the ball where he's not there now. He's second fiddle right now. He should have been in the situation where teams are vying for his services over Matthew Stafford, and that didn't happen this year.
No. Stafford signed early in the process, okay, with the Rams. So teams weren't quite bidding, as far as Stafford. Stafford's a little younger than Rodgers, too. That's a fact as well. But the point is, if Rodgers today decided amongst the three teams, the Vikings, the Giants, the Steelers, made a decision today, picked up the phone and said, look, let's get it done. Let's get a contract done. I want to play for your team. I want to get it done. I think all three would sign him. But I think in the case of the Giants, the Giants are going to draft a quarterback. But they're fine with Aaron Rodgers this year. And I think also, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, and I think this enters into it to a small degree. You sign Aaron Rodgers, you create a big buzz in your franchise with the fan base. And the fan base of the Giants is probably still a bit ticked off about the Saquon Barkley thing. You get Rodgers, there'll be a lot of Giant fans complaining too, saying, what the heck are you getting Rodgers for? What is this? But he's going to create excitement, whether you like the move or not. There's going to be a buzz with the Giants. And even with the players, like a Malik Neighbors is going to think, oh, I got the legendary Aaron Rodgers thrown to me. It's a heck of a lot better than Drew Lock.
I still don't think he's the Giants are going to get him, Jack. There's too much. Listen, the head coach, Ladal, whatever his name is. He is a very hot-headed guy, and I don't think he would put up with Aaron Rodgers' show.
Mac, I understand what you're saying, but if they weren't interested, they would have shut down the idea with Rodgers. The idea that reportedly they're waiting on him, they're trying to negotiate and work it out, that puts away that theory, well, the ball and the Giants don't want him. Apparently they want him. Giants, of all the teams in the NFL, guys, the Giants are in the worst shape right now, quarterback-wise, unless they're willing to draft Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders should be available to them between Tennessee and Cleveland. One of them is taking Cam Ward. And then Shedeur Sanders is going to be there. You want a prediction now? This is a flat-out prediction, and this is for you, Jay Train. You're listening carefully?
I'm listening very.
Very carefully. You could put up with Derek Carr maybe for part of one season because Shedeur Sanders is going to be a New Orleans Saint. You hear me? He is going to be drafted. No, he is going to be drafted in the first round. He's going to fall to the New Orleans Saints. The Jets, the Raiders aren't going to take him at 6. The Jets aren't going to take him at 7. Carolina's obviously not going to take him at 8. He's falling to the Raiders to the Saints right after. That's your quarterback of the future. And congratulations, he's going to be a good NFL quarterback, Shedeur Sanders.
No, I believe when you say that, I believe that he's going to be a good quarterback. I believe you believe that. And I agree. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. But I disagree that he's going to fall to the Saints. I think he's going to get taken in the top 3. I think a lot of this is a lot of posturing and I think when the guy put that out there, it happened before. A lot of guys will put down a player when in actuality, they want the buzz out there to be that this guy's a malcontent or whatever it may be. And they end up picking that player. And I think the Giants.
Shedeur Sanders.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Shedeur Sanders is not coming out in the top 3. He's going to fall out of the first round. And
maybe out the first round completely. No. Mac, no, that's a little extreme, Mac. Don't buy into that stuff that he's going to fall out of the first round. The Giants are going to take a quarterback probably in the second round, like Jackson Dart or Quinn Ewers, and maybe Will Howard in the third round or whatever. Giants will draft a quarterback, but it's not, Shedeur Sanders isn't going to fall all the way out of the first round. Some team is going to trade up then to get him. even if it's 17th, 18th, but he's going to New Orleans. He's going to the New Orleans Saints. I'm telling you that now. The Saints go 9th, right?
I got to screenshot this for sure. So this is what we call younger people call receipts, Jack. So I got to keep this as a receipt. And
Wait. What about my receipt during last season? I said Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler next season, and we're on the off season. I said,
well, you got to keep it. You got to hold on to your receipt. We don't know if it happens yet, but you hold on to that receipt. Hold on to that receipt. But I think if he doesn't get taken in the top 3, I agree with you. He won't fall past 9. But I just disagree that he's going to fall to 9. I think he's going to get taken.
Mac, do you think? Okay, I shouldn't have maybe put Mac down for this because there was some rumors that he could actually fall out of the first round. I mean, it's not impossible. I could look very foolish if he does, the way, especially how I reprimanded Mac for that opinion. But is there any possibility he could actually completely fall out of the first round and not be picked?
I mean, let's give you a couple of examples. Geno Smith was projected to be first round. He fell to the second. Will Levis was projected to be first round. He fell to the second. I think Shedeur Sanders is better than both those two quarterbacks. I think he's both better than both. Coming collegiately, when you watch him play, I've watched him play, and I see a leader. I see a great quarterback. He can, if you protect him, he can dissect a defense.
Great quarterback.
Yes. Wow. These are things that I've watched, observed, and people, like Jack said about Aaron Rodgers, the same thing. You don't hear anybody shutting down Shedeur Sanders. If anything, most of his teammates are pushing him up. So yes, absolutely, sir.
You know what I think? I think these GMs and front office people feel threatened. They interview Shedeur Sanders and he says, I'm coming here to change the culture of a team. I want him to have a winning attitude. They want a guy who's a leader, but they don't want a guy to be the ultimate leader of the organization. They want to be, as long as they have control of him. They don't want a guy who's too, and then there's the Deion factor. I hate to say it because of the Deion Sanders image. And Deion Sanders, let's be honest, isn't the smoothest guy with his comments sometimes. And some of these GMs aren't going to want to deal with what Deion, has to say because the media is going to keep running to Deion about Shedeur Sanders. I mean, anything Shedeur does, Deion's going to get a call. How do you think this team is handling him or that? And Deion might give an answer. He might not be too happy with the way the team is handling him. I mean, he might give a comment, and then it's headline news. And some teams just don't want to deal with that. Remember that movie Draft Day, even though it was all fictional, the GM told the player who went on Twitter something, we hate that as GMs. Now you get a reputation as being, who's going to talk and voice his opinion, anything that comes up. And he says, we hate that as GMs. But that's the reality in real life. The GMs do, hate that.
I think both those points you made were very fair. I agree. The Deion Sanders factor is probably going to be some things that turn GMs or organizations off. And also Shedeur Sanders changing the culture and being someone that, it's great quarterbacks that have changed coaches around. Great quarterbacks that have come into the league that have changed coaches around with their winning attitude and with their play. I consider this kid to be in that ilk, to be in that same breath as some of those greats. It's just going to take time, obviously, and the right organization to pick him. Yes, Mac, I'm saying it. You can hold my receipt here. I will hold this receipt as well in regards to seeing Shedeur Sanders be successful in the league.
He's going to be a New Orleans Saints. New coach, Kellen Moore, new quarterback. He'll have a chance.
I wouldn't mind that.
Derek Carr can start the season. That's fine. And at some point, Shedeur's going to take over during the year.
Okay.
We'll see. I would like that. But, yeah, I know we probably talked enough about Shedeur here, Mac. Sorry.
Yes. Tom Thibodeau has got to learn to rest his players because of the short bench in New York. Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, the Knicks, if they're going to have any chance at winning this year, which I don't think they are because of the schedule going into the playoffs, he at least has got to get them rested enough to be ready for next year.
Now, part of it, Mac, too, good question by you, but part of it is Mikal Bridges reportedly had a talk with Tom Thibodeau to tell him, you're playing maybe the starters a little too much, maybe play the guys on the bench a little more. Now, we don't know the motivation behind that talk. Sometimes these starting players who are very secure in their jobs, like a Mikal Bridges, very secure. No one is replacing Mikal Bridges. They have friends that on the bench. They want to see their teammates who are their friends, get a little more run, a few minutes here and there. They don't mind it because they have their guaranteed contracts, the starters as is. And Thibodeau's a bit old school. He's been known to glue players to the bench. And it's very tough for these guys who never get any run at all. You go 8 games in a row and you don't get in, at all to play. It drives you up the wall. It really does, if you're on the team. But Tom Thibodeau's old school in this sense. He goes back to a day when players played a lot of minutes. And that's his style. Is he burning his team out? That's the question. The NBA is a grind. It takes something out of your body. I mean, if you play a game and it's a hard game, and then you're back 2 nights later, have you physically recovered completely? That's the question. Not mentally, physically recovered from a hard game. That when you're running up and down the court, you take runners who train, okay, for the Olympics, marathons, this, that. When you have a very hard workout, you're not the same the next day. You can't duplicate it. You need a couple of rest days. Sometimes you need 3, 4 rest days, depending on your age. When you're younger, you bounce back a little quicker with less rest. But when you're older, it's kind of like pick and choose a little more. I don't know the answer to it. It depends on the individual players. I just don't know the answer, whether Thibodeau is right, whether he's wrong. But with that said, he played Mikal Bridges 41 minutes after the talk, and Mikal Bridges hit the game-winning shot. So what can I tell you? The last game.
I would say I watched an interview or a podcast between Josh Hart, Jalen. What's the kid's name? Sorry, the star.
Brunson.
Jalen Brunson and Tom Thibodeau and Vincenzo when he was there. They were all sitting down in the discussion. This was about 8 months ago on a podcast, and they were talking about minutes. And I don't think they even had a problem, but they did ask Thibodeau about the minutes and the issue with it. And he was saying that I think he gets unfairly criticized for that because other teams do it too as well. Other teams do it as well. And he said when he looked at the guys' minutes over the course of the season, periodically some guys may have to play 45, 47 minutes or whatever they're talking about, but none of these guys average over 33 minutes over the course of the season. So to hear that is something that he thought was fairly unfair criticism of him. So I would agree with him in that instance if those analytics are correct. Then I mean sometimes it just has to be that way because I mean in the instance your star player is not in the game. You're right now. Jalen Brunson's hurt, so sometimes you may have to play a little bit more to be the guy. Okay, I mean, and it's interesting that this is the guy that is the Iron Man. That's considered a guy who's never missed a game or for so long, and he's playing in the game. But I mean, I don't think he's asking anyone. I mean, if I'm on a job and I need to work a little bit extra to get a job done, sometimes it's like that. I get what you're saying, Jack, that it's a grind. It's a complete grind. But that's what these guys are getting paid for. I mean, I'll be honest with you. They get paid a handsome paycheck. So it's hard for me to be empathetic about playing 45 minutes of the game. Now, mind you, if the bench is not that good, why would I want to spell a lot of minutes for a bench? I'm not saying that their bench is good or not. I don't know who they are, who is the guys on the bench, and if they're any good and what they're averaging points wise. But I would say that you I mean, you got to play the game. You're paid to play the game, and your coach. You knew the coach before they traded you there. I don't know if it was something before you get traded or you go into free agency to this team. Like, do I want to come here because I know what this guy's reputation is? I know what they're playing extra minutes. It just sounds a little soft to me. I'll be honest with you. The only problem I have with this situation, and I'll let you go, is that one player did. I mean, the player Mikal Bridges stated that he and Thibodeau had a meeting about this prior, and Thibodeau denied that. So I have a problem there. So that's a problem. That why are you denying that? That's an issue to me. That if you're having a communication and you're talking about it, and then so somebody's not telling the truth. One of the two is not telling the truth, and that's bad in the organization. That doesn't look bode well for future success within that group.
That does look bad with Thibodeau denying it and Mikal Bridges saying they had the meeting. Yeah, I don't think it's a question of attitude. I understand what you're saying, they're being paid and so on. I think it's just a physical thing. If you're physically tired and you don't feel you're going to be as effective, you're like a fighter who's just lasting till the final bell, not trying to win rounds. You're out there, you're running up and down the court. You're trying to an extent, but your energy level isn't as high. That's I think where Mikal Bridges is coming from. Not that they don't want to play, and I really don't think it's an attitude thing. I think sometimes you want like fresher bodies on there.
Yeah. So let's get to the last topic we have today, and Jack has a topic he's gonna tell us about.
Yeah, I mean, just basically with Trevor Bauer, who doesn't have a team right now. Former Cy Young Award winner claims he'll pitch for the Yankees for nothing, for free. He just wants an opportunity. And Trevor Bauer was suspended from baseball for a while. He had some interactions with a woman that was pretty negative. It could have been more than one, or maybe it was one. I don't remember. But the bottom line is Trevor Bauer wasn't convicted of anything. But Major League Baseball didn't like the interaction, whatever. So he was banned, whatever. Went to Japan, had to play. Now he's back. Why isn't he given another chance? I mean, is it his personality? When he was with the Indians, the manager came out to take him out of the game and he threw the ball into the center field stands. That shows something mentally that he's really off. He was Garrett Cole's teammate at college at USC. Reportedly, Cole didn't like him. His personality, he's outspoken at times. But to an extent, he's been quiet to a large extent, okay? He did tweet something with the Yankees when they lost Garrett Cole. He put down former Cy Young Award winner willing to work for free, to send a message. But teams need pitching. Why isn't he being picked up? He has this big personality. And there's some negativity as far as his relationship with a woman or this or that. But should the Yankees take a chance on him or not? I mean, that's the question. And my guess would be maybe no. If he's going to be toxic in the clubhouse, I wouldn't take a chance on him. And I can't be hypocritical with athletes. For example, I never would have supported as great a receiver as he was, Terrell Owens for the Hall of Fame, because Terrell Owens destroyed teams in the locker room, destroyed them. So for all the good he did on the field, and he was great on the field, an all-time great on the field, he was one of the biggest negatives in the history of sports as far as destroying his team. And you take that into consideration, things like that. And you have athletes in situations where you just can't have them on a team. Or if you do have them on a team, they mess up the chemistry, like we discussed Isaiah with the Olympic team. Guys hated his guts, on that team. A number of guys hated his guts. Did he deserve to be on the team on merit? Absolutely, 100% on merit. There's no debate there at all. How great he was. And that's what we're coming down with Trevor Bauer. Could he help the Yankees? Yeah, he's worth picking up and putting in the rotation right now with Cole out there. You're taking a chance on him? Absolutely. But with that said, I think he's toxic. And there's a reason the other teams aren't going after him either. But we do live in a society where people do deserve another chance unless they've done something so horrendous, that we can't give them another chance or shouldn't give them another chance because what they did was so terrible. But that's not the situation with Trevor Bauer. He seems to be a toxic personality. So I would be reluctant to, have him on my team. So I wouldn't, sign him with the Yankees.
I got a couple of questions. I don't know much about this guy or baseball for that matter, but I can make an assessment here. How old is this guy? One.
I think he's probably in the, I'd say about 30, 31. If our producer could look it up.
So that's relatively young.
I'm speculating his age, approximately. If our producer could look it up, I'd appreciate it. If they can't, then no big deal.
How long ago did this incident happen with the women? I mean, that was reported.
Years ago, but he pitched in Japan, so he hasn't been inactive.
He hasn't been inactive. But my point is, in bringing that up, is that if it's more so when we say years, maybe like the 2020s or the 2010s.
A few years. It happened at least a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about the Me Too movement. That's my reason for bringing that up.
About 4 years ago. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. So baseball's probably a little bit scared to lose. I mean, to have someone that's in that realm to say, okay, this is what we need to do with a player like this. If he's doing anything like this, which rightfully so. If like you say, he wasn't convicted, but they put it in a situation where this is a guy. He probably was more of a headache, more of an unhinged player. You say he threw a baseball in the stadium. Yeah, I mean so he's pretty unhinged. And then also to coincide that with what allegedly happened off the field. It's hard to bring a guy in like that, especially a guy now, if you're like 31, 32 or whatever. I mean, that's not old in baseball, especially for pitching. It's not old. But is he worth the price of admission to bring him back just for help with the problems that he may or may not still have or issue? I agree with you that everybody deserves a second or possibly a third chance. I mean, it's just this is the society we live in, but you have to look at the pros and cons. I mean, is it like with Aaron Rodgers? Is he worth the potential headache? Can he come in and give us something that's going to be good enough to say that's going to be sufficient enough to put us over the top with our pitching, or is it like just way too much of a risk to even bring him in? Especially, or do you guys just say that the Yankees are known for their traditions and everything like that? Not a lot of guys get in trouble there or that kind of stuff. I wouldn't dare bring him in if that's the case. I mean, if that's the things that he has in his past or whatnot. And I don't want to judge a man off his past, but I'm going to be sticking to my guns and how we've done things over time. And I wouldn't bring somebody in unless you just think that he's lights out. He played in Japan. And he was doing extremely well. Still, I don't know. I couldn't do it.
Well, Keith Angle said he would never, ever hire Bauer.
But what is Keith's reason? That's what I want to know. I mean, I could speculate what it is. It had to be his off-the-field conduct, apparently. Right. But he wasn't convicted. Okay, if he did the thing he was accused of flat out, there would have been criminal charges, against him, I would think. That's
I
what
mean, that's not always the case. I mean, I know a lot of people. I mean, we could agree or disagree about O.J. Simpson, but a lot of people will say that he's guilty in spite of him being not guilty. I mean, by the
So-
court of appeal. I mean, so there's I mean, what is it? Some kid I forgot recently just they did something to where he was found to not have evidence. There was not enough evidence to convict. There's doesn't mean you're not guilty. It just means there's just not enough evidence to convict a person. So I don't know the situation. I'm not saying that man's guilty of anything in the past. Bauer, I'm talking about, but it does he could have, like you said, Jack. There was no. I mean, he didn't get convicted, but it doesn't necessarily mean some things didn't happen.
there seemed to be evidence of some wrongdoing, maybe not enough to convict them, send them to jail. Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
In the court of public opinion, sometimes means more than the actual, the situation the guy's in.
Anyone could get accused of anything. You could have a job as, let's say, a school teacher, and a student can just come up with this bogus charge, say you did this out of nowhere, and guess what? You're like kind of suspended with pay in the beginning, but you're removed from your job based on a word or this or that.
Right.
And the thing that gets me, this, society, there's got to be accountability if there's a false accusation. Look at what happened with the Duke lacrosse team. One accusation and everyone was going crazy. And what's her word, that female commentator, Grace something? She was coming at the Duke players with such hatred.
Yeah.
And they didn't do anything wrong, at all. I mean, but the young lady who accused them, I give her credit today. She's reached out to apologize, and asked to be forgiven and that. But the point is, anyone could get accused of anything at any point. But sometimes James is right. There is kind of some evidence that they didn't act appropriately. You can't have criminal charges. And James's point too, to his point, it depends on the level of player they are. I mean, you could take Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. They could be accused of something, and their team is going to be a lot more tolerant keeping them on if you're a franchise quarterback.
So-
That's just what it
I'm
is.
just giving an example, those two names.
So we got to get out of here, guys. Top of the hour. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you found the debate, for the most part, pretty exciting. So we'll see you next week here on the Mac, Jack, and James Debate Show.